What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Gravity the Beast, back at it again with another video for you. Here with my homeboy. Introduce yourself.
What's going on? It's your boy Bash. How we doing, everybody?
Word. Okay, so this is a different type of video. I'm still new at this, but I want to make videos based on different things that I like and different things that I don't see other people like me talking about on average. So today's topic is Vampire Diaries, a show that ended a few years ago and then it gets looked at as a female teen show, which it is for the most part. But we two dudes that actually like the show, and we here to talk about the shit. So,
Pretty well said. Yeah.
not real shit though.
Yeah.
Cause like you don't hear a lot of people who actually like it, and me, I started watching it by accident. But
Yeah.
we'll get into that. So
Yeah.
I'll ask you first. How did you get into the show?
To kind of make a long story short, I was at my buddy's house and we was just hanging out and his brother was downstairs in his theater room and he was watching it.
Yeah.
And we all just got in there, sat down, and I'm like, yo, what is this? And he's like, oh, I don't know, some vampire show.
Uh-huh.
So I started watching it without knowing that it was the Vampire Diaries. And I was like, yo, it's kind of interesting, kind of caught my eye. So I went home, did some research. I was like, oh, so this is the show. And then I started watching it because it was already on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I started going at it. And then my boy was with me. He was like, oh, I'm going to start watching it too. But then he saw like 3 episodes and was done.
Damn.
Me on the other hand,
Yeah.
I saw 3 episodes and I was hooked.
Shit, I
Yeah,
feel you. on
yeah,
that.
it was like that. And I was like, okay. And then obviously, you throughout the years, you're like, yeah, it is a majority dominant girl that watches it. But,
Yeah.
but I liked it. It was my thing.
Shit, I feel you. Like literally, like it was during the first season. I was watching a different show on the CW that came on right before.
Yeah.
And then like my show had ended, and then the next show had started, and I just didn't turn the channel. And then like I did that for like 2 weeks, and then after watching like 10 minutes of each episode, I was like, "Yo, what is this?"
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm watching it.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy. Yeah, it took me by surprise because
for real.
I was like, what got me into the CW was I had watched Smallville,
Oh yeah.
and then that kind of made me knew what the CW was because it used to be WBTV.
Yup.
Then they switched it to that, and then I was like, all right, so what's next? And then little did we know, a couple weeks later, I found Vampire Diaries, and I was
Vampire
hooked
Diaries.
up. But mind you, I was already late into the game.
Wait, what season was it when you started?
Well, no, I started like the first episode of season 1,
Uh-huh.
but I think I was like already maybe 5 years in, like
Oh, okay.
late.
All
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah,
it was on
this-
like season 4, and then you started season 1.
Probably, yeah. I'm pretty sure on
Okay.
TV it was like season 4, season 5.
Okay,
But
okay, yeah.
but Netflix, I'm watching shit back to back.
You could binge it, so
Oh,
it's
I
like
was-
you catch up quick.
Believe it or not, no, I'm lying. By the time I caught up, it was season 6 because season 6
Damn.
was not on. Yeah,
Damn.
yeah. So
So
we'll
you
get
was-
into that,
yeah.
but pretty
All right.
much, yeah, that's how it was.
So, all right, what were your first thoughts on it?
Honestly, I think the whole idea was creative as hell. Like, it was nice. But to be honest with you, I was just hooked up from the beginning. I can't really tell you anything different.
I feel you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the type of characters, the storyline. I mean, I could sit here all day and talk about it.
Yeah. I feel, see, for me, it was like magic. Anytime I see some type of magical show, vampire, witch type of deal, I'm into that shit off rip. It's like it's not much that I need besides that. Now, one of the questions that people ask each other all the time, like the big Vampire Diary thing, which team are you? I know this is weird seeing some dudes talk about this, but you really do form your own opinion by watching
Listen,
the show.
I'm very,
Stefan or Damon, bro?
I'm very. I don't like picking sides because if you want to talk about whether or not who was the better person, anybody can say it was Stefan because of the logic where Damon came from. But technically, I would honestly give it to Stefan.
Really?
Yeah, I would give it to
feel you.
Stefan, and there's reasons behind it. Because don't get me wrong, yo, I think Damon like is a fucking G. Like he got it. There's times where you'd watch the show and be like, yo, you want to be Damon, and then there was times where you like, damn, I wish I was Stefan.
I don't know if I ever felt that way personally.
Really?
Nah.
Really?
I don't think I ever, like, Stefan was always cool, and he was always a good guy, so you respected him trying, but I never wanted to be him. Like, Damon seemed
I feel
cool,
you. Yeah.
like, but Stefan was just a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I think overall, the way how Stefan was because he was the nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
like I saw myself in a way.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of go towards him.
Mm.
But in all the bad shit,
Mm.
I saw myself as Damon.
Yeah.
That's why I really don't want to pick sides.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if we want to get into it already, and you go back and it's like, yo, Stefan really went through some shit.
For real.
You know, he went from having the girl to losing the girl to not only losing the girl at that, but then losing her to her, you know,
His
brother at that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like season 1 through basically season 1. All right, straight up, Stefan got the girl.
Mm.
It's all about Elena. Damon's the asshole in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one you need to stay away with. Season 2 comes along and it's like, all right, well, Stefan had to make some certain choices.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, Damon obviously saw that opportunity and was like, all right, I'm going to go get this girl.
I would argue against that, though. Because I feel like Damon always wanted Elena. And in the beginning, in the beginning, he was a savage about it, like evil about it. Because it was like, he didn't really think he would get her, but he was
stayed
playing
back,
along. He stayed back.
Yeah, he stayed back.
I felt like later on, and you recently rewatched the series more recent than me. So,
I did.
So when Stefan had went bad, and he started working with Klaus, and he started pushing Elena away and whatever, and then he got over that, and then it was still a point in time where he wasn't trying to deal with Elena, or like they didn't know what they were, or had to work through shit, where he could have just got back with Elena. But he gave that open. He gave that open to Damon, and Damon tried to respect it while his brother was on the loose. He tried to, but then they just had that. They had that chemistry.
Regardless whether you want to be cool about it, he was waiting. But we gotta kind of go back a little bit because you gotta keep in mind, why did they get into Elena? Why did they fall for Elena? Because that kind of goes back to 1864 when they were humans and Catherine got into their lives. Because that's the whole reason why Stefan got into Elena, because he saw her from the bridge.
See, I don't know if I don't know if I would agree with that though. I think it was more like all right. So even touching back into that, understanding that one, Stefan never liked Catherine. He never liked. He was compelled from jump.
Yeah, technically.
Damon was head over heels. He didn't need compulsion.
Yeah.
But then you could also look at the flip side and talk about the double ganger shit and how that works. But you could argue that Catherine never attracted Stefan because she was a dead double ganger. Opposed to Stefan being alive at the time, he would have been attracted to the double ganger of his time. So he never had that feeling towards Catherine.
Also kind of goes back to, remember, he was compelled technically to be with Catherine. Damon was the more open-hearted, like really had feelings for her.
Yeah.
So then you got to think about it. Stefan pretty much realized that, all right, this is the present day. This girl is here.
Yeah.
Let me see if I could, let me go get this girl now and see if this could truly be for real. Because technically his thing with Catherine was like...
That was all fake.
It was all fake, technically.
Yeah.
So, you know, but then once Damon came back, did the whole famous hello
crazy.
brother phrase in the beginning of the series and came in. And,
hello, brother.
You know, and once he realized who Stefan came back for, because remember, Stefan was away, and then he came back, and then he really stayed once he saw Elena.
Yeah, that's a fact. That is a fact. And then Damon was just being an asshole. But
Damon was being Damon. Yeah,
that's a fact. And Damon, like, I'll get into my personal, but I'm Team Damon, and I say that because at a certain point, Damon did not choose his path. He did once he became a vampire, but Damon.
You got to go back to how he became a vampire.
Exactly. Damon wanted Catherine. He was a love-struck fool. Now, give him that. When Catherine supposedly died, Damon had no reason to be a vampire. He didn't want to be a vampire just to be a vampire. He was doing it for love. At that point, when Catherine was supposedly dead, it was Stefan that forced him to feed, forced him into a life of vampirism against his will.
Because if we go back to all the very beginning, keep in mind, technically, if you want to compare the two as vampires, Stefan's the more dangerous one because he's a ripper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Damon wasn't a ripper. Stefan was.
Mm-hmm.
So when you want to look back into
Shake the table. Mm-hmm.
when you want to look back into who was worse, then technically, yeah, it's Stefan.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to Stefan became a vampire first, and he made Damon.
Made him feed
Made
right
him
after
feed.
it. Yeah.
So at that point,
Dude, Stefan killed his own father. That right, and then forced you into vampirism after you found out that he killed your father as a fucking vampire.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, bro.
I still see myself like that.
You
Like,
still see it? You still see it?
Because when you look back as to the reasons behind what they did, like Damon went bad because of what he was forced to become. Stefan was already bad in terms of being compelled, and then all of a sudden you make this guy like become a vampire and he becomes a ripper. Which is down the line we find out why he really was a ripper, but
genetic. Who would have thought some fucking supernatural? Well, all right, that sounds kind of stupid. I was about to say, who would have thought some supernatural shit would be genetic? But like a predisposition to,
it's like the
ripper.
genetic part made it just worse.
Yeah,
like it was there anyways, but because of vampirism,
just took it to the next.
It to the next level.
That really is some shit.
So it's definitely something to look into.
Real shit. All right, so moving forward, my next point that I always think about, right? Could you imagine being a human in that world, bro? Like, seriously, all the shit just being a random person in Mystic Falls, bro. That shit is just sad, bro.
Well, you know what, you gotta ask. You gotta ask Matt Donovan that question.
Real shit.
Because you at that point you're just like he was the human the whole series. He was the only guy that made it start to finish. Didn't get bitten by a werewolf. Didn't get his neck sucked out by a vampire or
he
killed.
He has never been turned. He's died plenty of times.
Well, because he had the ring.
Got the ring.
He had the ring. So that saved Matt. That saved Jeremy. Elena's uncle. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, her dad,
father. Yeah, her father.
I forget his name, but yeah.
Basically, but we saw him as his uncle at first. So that if it wasn't for that ring, then obviously but
I might be remembering wrong. Didn't Elena's dad get turned into a vampire and he chose not to transition? Or am I wrong about that?
Well, that kind of goes back to... Well, see, now we're really jumping because remember, he technically is alive or was alive at the end.
Was he?
Well, if you...
I forgot.
If you want to jump already to the last episode,
I mean,
then technically speaking, then yes, because in the very last episode, you see Damon and Elena walking and up in that house is her dad.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
But... Okay. If you want to go towards her mom now, remember she was the one that was a vampire that wanted to be turned into a vampire.
Yeah,
then
I remember
that. She was compelled by Klaus.
Yeah, that was some shit.
To do what she had to do, and then as soon as she got what she needed, to take her necklace off of her vein and burst into flames and die.
Yeah, that was a good season.
That was. And to find out that she was Alaric's first wife,
bro.
Like that bond that Alaric had with Elena afterwards, was still strong to this day. But to not kind of get off topic, me being a human in that world, that would have been tricky. Because I'll be honest with you, I would have wanted to be turned, to be a vampire, but I guess I'm overthinking about it. Yeah. But when you really do sit there and think, it's like, well, I don't want to be turned just yet. Because keep in mind of what happens when you get turned.
You stay the same age forever.
You stay at that same age.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, listen, technically, if I was 25, 30, all right, I'm cool. But if I'm 17, like in high school, 17, it might be cool and lit at first, but fuck that. By the time 10 years go by, your friends are 30, and you're still the same 17-year-old looking person.
Yeah, that's going to get old quick.
Like, cause keep in mind, remember Catherine's friend, I forget her name, but her daughter that got into it with Jeremy.
Yeah, what is it? Anna,
yeah. She's a vampire, but she was young.
Yeah.
So that means that she's been what 14 years old. They made her seem like
16,
she was like
17.
But they pretty much made her a mid-aged teenager from the 1800s when they were all turned all the way to the mid 2000s when technically, the season was. So that would have sucked.
Real shit.
That sucked.
Shit.
And then you got people who are just regular people in their 20s, 30s, vampires. So I'm like, if I want to be a vampire, shit, I'm going to try to stay humanly as possible.
I say 28.
Yeah, mid 20s, early 30s, that's like your prime, I guess you could say. And be turned into a vampire because you're going to be stuck at that age looking like that for the rest of your life. Unless you don't last because you get,
Yeah, get taken.
Exactly.
Which is a common occurrence in Mystic Falls.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, imagine getting killed in gym class.
How would you get killed though? Like just because of like something happens and your head gets chopped off or your heart gets taken out?
I've literally seen, I forget what it was. It was fuck, I don't remember who it was, but it was like at some dance or some shit. Catherine, I think Catherine was with somebody. Maybe. I could be wrong about Catherine, but I'm pretty sure it was Catherine. She was with somebody at a dance and she was trying to manipulate somebody into doing shit. And niggas was trying to call her bluff. And then she snapped the girl's neck. And somebody had to hold the body. They had to hold the body in public because it was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you just killed her.
Well,
like in public.
Well, okay, so you mean like killing somebody just in general, not killing them to become a vampire or being a vampire and you die.
Yeah, no, literally, as a human, you fair game. You could, like...
There's so much stuff that happened.
Wild.
All right, like, everybody knows who's watched the season that their go-to excuse for everything was gas leak.
Yeah.
That was their go-to.
This gas leak, gotta evacuate.
There was the go-to excuse to make sure that no one would catch suspicion. Now, we all know this is TV. So at the end of the day, we all know if Middletown, Delaware had a gas leak, like 2 times every 5 years, we're gonna know some shit going on.
Bullshit, yeah.
So right now, you think like, all right. So with that being said, they use that all the time. People are gonna start to wonder. You live in Mystic Falls. You don't have no idea. You mean to tell me that not everybody in Mystic Falls knew about vampires, werewolves, witches, doppelgangers, all the above?
Real shit. But then you gotta think the Founders Council, they was on their shit.
They were.
They was on their shit, bro.
And honestly, to this day, I give it to Damon for being the best spy.
Bruh.
Because he got in it.
Bruh.
And I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember it like to the key, but how he made himself seem like he was human because he tricked Caroline's mom into thinking that he was a human being.
Liz.
Liz. So,
bro, he killed Lexi. I never forgave him for that.
He did.
He killed Lexi just because niggas was hot on his trail. They was like, yo, it's a vampire in town, blah, blah, blah. Just kill Lexi. That's some cold. On top of what he did to her in the past, where she tried to turn his humanity back on and he pretended to care about her and then fucked her on the roof and took her ring.
To give him the benefit of the doubt, we didn't find that out until later.
We didn't.
So,
but on top of you killed her after when she first came to Mystic Falls for Stefan's birthday. She did not fuck with Damon for that reason.
But we didn't know that at that time.
We didn't know. But you killed her.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, that was a hard.
And all he had to say was it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on now, like. But you know what? Yeah. That was Stefan's best friend.
Yeah.
I mean,
shouts out to her, man.
Oh yeah.
She was a good actress too.
Oh yeah. Everybody. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but to me, everybody knows her from Soul Plane.
Oh yeah, she was the daughter. Oh shit, yeah. I remember that. I've seen her in some other shit too. She was in what was it? John Tucker Must Die. Okay, remember that? Yeah, she was one of the girlfriends.
Know who she was? I never seen the show, but she was on it. And she did some pretty explicit shit. Was Ballers.
I heard about that show. I never watched it.
Yeah, it's got The Rock in it, but I've never seen it. But I think there's she was in that show. I don't know for how long or what the case was, but I know she was in it. But yeah, no, Lexi, shout out to her. But if you want to give a shout out to somebody, in all retrospect, you really got to give it to one person, and I'm talking about the one person that throughout the whole show went through the biggest shit. I don't care what anybody says. If it's between losing something, gaining something, getting something destroyed or taken away from her, that is my girl Bonnie. Bonnie was the number one person that went through the most shit, that basically killed herself for people.
For everybody.
gave herself up, like all the above. If you want to talk about your best friend, talk that girl Bonnie went
Real
through
shit.
it and did shit for everybody when she could have just said no and walked away. No,
Every time.
she stayed back and did her magic and did her thing. Went to anybody she could have went to for help. They helped her
Every time.
and she got it done. If it wasn't
Shit.
for Bonnie, literally the show, if they wanted to do the story that they did with the show, that show would have been done after like a season or two.
Not even half the season. Could you imagine if Bonnie's grandma, imagine if episode 2 of season 1, before Elena and Stefan even becoming a couple, if Bonnie's dad passed away and she went to live with her grandmother and they had to move.
Yeah.
So she ends up becoming a witch, but she never stays in Mystic Falls. Could you imagine that?
But keep in mind that a lot of the reasons why they needed Bonnie wasn't just because of Bonnie. It was because she was a Bennett witch.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right.
Like, things required a Bennett witch
Yeah.
to either undo or to do the spell. Mind you, go back to when we first learned about the original season 2. We first met Klaus when the whole story was he needed the doppelganger.
1 second. Hold up. All right, so Bennett witches and Klaus.
So basically, in season 2, what brought Klaus to the Vampire Diaries was because
you needed the Bennett witch blood.
Not only that, they realized that a doppelganger was still alive, still existed. So therefore, they needed that doppelganger to die in order to basically relieve Klaus of the so-called curse that he had about whether or not he could finally open up his werewolf side and be the first hybrid. So, with that being said, if it wasn't for Bonnie, that wouldn't have happened. They probably would have killed Elena anyways.
Yeah.
And Klaus, because you know how Klaus tempers is, and we don't want to get off track to the original family, but
we're gonna do another video about the original.
But basically, like that right there, shows you like no shit was was being played. So, yeah, Bonnie went through it. Even at the end, I mean, if you want to fast forward all the way to like damn near season 7 through 8. Where she needed to open up that vault from what were they called?
What was it? The St. John Mansion shit?
Yeah, but it was like the sisters, the two
sirens.
The sirens.
The sirens,
yeah. Like Bonnie had to open up that vault because Bennett blood was used to seal up that vault. But basically throughout all the seasons, like I said, Bonnie was the one that went through it. Don't get me wrong, Elena went through it with her parents.
Fuck that.
No, but listen, she still went through it as an individual person.
Yeah.
Because remember, we all remember the season when she turned off her humanity.
Yeah.
Seeing Elena finally become a vampire felt weird.
Yeah.
Finally seeing her be comfortable with being a vampire. And then turning off her humanity and then being that person, bro, that took it to a whole other level.
I feel you there. I see
level.
where she let that stress out. But I always, I got caught up in the whole hate Elena because everything was like, do it for Elena. Sacrifice your life for Elena. We got to do it because, Bonnie, I know we just, killed your family member and killed somebody you care about and hurt you and took this from you, but you got to do this spell so Elena could live. And, yeah, I know you've been through a lot, Bonnie, but I'm gonna screw you over to help Elena, and you're going to be okay with it because you love Elena, too. Yep. And we're going to do it's like, are you fucking kidding? Like, all the shit that they have done, that if other people have done, it'd be a problem. It's like, and that's
the funny part because that's when you look back and it's like, this is TV. Because y'all know damn well in real life, no one would go through that.
Bro.
No one would even stay or even be your friend at that, in the situation. But
well, I can't say that because I don't live in that world. But realistically, if I met Caroline, a later on Caroline, not early Caroline, but later on vampire Caroline, I'll be cool with it. She's a cool person and she's the most controlled vampire there is. Yeah. She's the model vampire.
Because she's the first one to become a vampire. In season 2, she was the first one.
Bitch ass fucking Catherine.
Yeah,
that was some cold shit. But even that first episode literally killed Bonnie's date. Literally, just not. She bit the person at the hospital. I don't remember if she killed her or not. I think she bandaged her up or something.
I'm not sure
compelled her to forget.
Yeah.
But then literally go to a carnival or whatever and killed Bonnie's date. I'm like, why Bonnie got to take the L's every time?
She took so many L's.
But all right. So moving forward, right? Next thing, if you gotta choose, what would you be? Vampire, werewolf, or witch?
I don't want to get too much into it because there's so many factors.
You could get specific too.
I mean, listen,
because I got specific.
This is where you get into the best defense is the best offense, or vice versa. Because everybody knows if you're a vampire, you pretty much live for an eternity.
Yep.
You pretty much have abilities to. They never say it, but you pretty much have super strength. You have super speed. You pretty much heal.
You can read minds. You can create illusions in people's minds. You can compel
people. You can pretty much have everything in life, really.
Real shit.
As long as they're not wearing vervain.
Yeah.
Being a werewolf, to be honest, and I think that's why they really hated the vampires, is because being a werewolf sucked. Because the only thing that vampires had to deal with to become a vampire was death.
Yeah.
But with werewolves, they have to deal with the moon once a month and breaking every bone in their body and going through that phase. And then becoming a werewolf, when technically speaking, a vampire can turn into, I guess, into vampire mode.
Well, a vampire is like always a vampire, really.
But you know what I mean? Like when their eyes start to you know.
Extra shit,
But technically, werewolf would have just sucked. I mean, you get like strength even in human form.
And speed and agility. But not to the same degree.
Not to the same degree. And then witches, well, I guess a warlock in a man's perspective.
Yeah.
You got to think of it, well, that's a good defense because you can control every supernatural being.
For the most
because
part.
they whatever they did, they had the power to pretty much put them to their knees and pretty much give them like a headache.
A brain aneurysm.
Exactly, where they're pretty much controlling their body from within. And that would pretty much protect yourself from when it came down to a vampire or a werewolf. But honestly, besides all that, a vampire.
Really?
A vampire. That no doubt.
Just a plain vampire, though?
I mean, are you referring to an original?
No. I mean, because you could pick whatever you want. Like, we find out later on that there are different combinations that you could be. So, like, for example, me personally, right? I came up with this whole specific idea. If I could be the perfect being, didn't mean to touch Mike. If I could be a perfect being, right? Or at least within the Vampire Diary concept.
Yeah.
The first level would be to be a heretic, right? So first, I'm one of those siphon witches, and then turn me into a vampire. So now I'm a witch-vampire hybrid, right?
Okay.
Now, one thing I would have liked to seen would be a like heretic witch, or maybe a witch and a werewolf have a kid who's the heretic, like a half witch, half werewolf. That would be dope to see. True. Or like an original. Like, if I get some of the original blood spell, whatever, and I'm a heretic, so now I'm an original, like, vampire witch.
But that wasn't technically, if you want to.
That wasn't.
If you want to stay to the Vampire Diary story.
Oh yeah, yes.
Technically,
all right. So just a witch vampire then.
But technically, I would. I mean, the heretics was probably the dopest because they could do magic and be vampires. But if it was just you had to pick one, it would be a vampire.
Okay.
I feel like that was me, because at the end of the day, there are some witches that were able to prolong life.
Yeah.
But they still died.
Yeah.
And you kill them, they're dead.
Yeah.
Werewolf. Well. All right.
I don't know. Say all that.
They're
dead. Who be coming back more than witches?
They're dead physically. Because spiritually,
not permanently. Because not always.
Because spiritually they were.
They're dead, but it's not permanent. I mean, let's not dig too much into the originals.
No. That has nothing to do with the originals, because
like
if you're trying to refer to them being on the other side, then technically, like I said, they're dead physically.
Yeah.
Spiritually, they're in the other side.
Okay, all right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, because they haven't moved on.
They haven't moved on.
All right.
Because everybody knows if you die from the other side, you're actually really dead now.
Yeah, you're right.
So, with that being said, it's like, all right, well, I would much rather be a vampire. Because I'm the type of person where, I mean, I love life. I want to live long. And then have all the perks of being a vampire. Now, here's another thing that we're forgetting. Something, a very important feature.
What's up?
Is I'm gonna make sure I have a daylight ring,
Dude. That if you don't,
because if not, then fuck that,
bro.
then fuck that. I'm not. Listen, you gotta have a daylight ring, and I hope I could have a friend group like the Vampire Diaries friend group because they had Bonnie, because Bonnie was able to make daylight ring. Listen, like I said, if it wasn't for Bonnie, nothing would have happened. Nothing would have been able to have been prevented, or would have worked for them to prevent bad stuff from happening. So it's like I said,
that's real shit. Bonnie, shouts out to Bonnie, man.
Yo, shout out to Cat Graham for doing such a great job in this role.
Real shit.
You know, but like I said, it was all up to Bonnie.
Shit, man.
So, yeah.
See, okay, so I guess to finish off, let's wrap it up with this. Where'd it go wrong?
Basically, I mean, the easiest answer would be after season 6, after Elena left, Nina Dobrev left the show.
You think that's where it went wrong? Went wrong?
That's where things really went a different way, because you lost a main character. Yeah. Which, when you really think about it, a lot of, like we said, it is a female dominant show. In terms of viewers, you look at that as, well, everybody loves Damon and Stefan. They had a thing for Damon. They had a thing for Matt. They had a thing for Tyler, Alaric,
Klaus,
Elijah. Yeah. I mean, that's even in the originals, as that veered off, people still had their thing with them. So every pretty much dominant male role, there was a following for it. Yeah, I guess as a girl thing, there was still that following for Elena. So even when she left, things changed, because keep in mind. Yeah. What was everything about Damon when it wasn't Vampirism? Elena. What was everything? Well, who was everybody trying to protect? Elena. So, in all that, you look into that and you're like, well, we lost her now. Well, technically in the story, she was put down because it was either Bonnie or her put to sleep. But in all reality, she was gone. But you look back into where the show went wrong. Well, season 1 was great. Season 2 was great. Season 3 was pretty much good. I believe.
What was season 3's plot? I'll be forgetting.
Season 3's plot was more, I want to say, because that's what I'm saying. Like, season 3 and 4 was pretty much anything. I want to say when they went to college and they graduated high school. I think that was when.
I thought that was like 5.
That might have been, because technically they were freshmen in high school.
No, they were
sophomores.
No, they were juniors. Juniors in season 1, and then in season 2 they were still juniors.
Well, there was a season where it was the summertime.
Yeah. All right. So
and then the next season, the next season was that following school year, and then there was graduation, and they went to college when they went to Whitmore,
and that was the beginning of season 5, I think.
Probably. Because eventually, I think
either 4 or 5, something like that.
So, and then after that, they went ahead and season 6 happened, and to be honest with me, it just went a different way when she left.
See, I feel like in the beginning it was dope, but then shit changed when the originals came out. I personally feel like this is not even just a Vampire Diary issue. This is like a CW issue. Less now because production of shows are slowed up. Like 10 years ago, right? Every show that came out on the CW was a new hit series. That was their term. Like, it comes out pilot for an episode, and then by 2-3 weeks in, new hit series. And it would be good for a while, but it all varied based on that show. And you would notice whenever a new show comes out, a spinoff comes out, the quality of the previous show dips. And they wouldn't tend to last more than a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons. But then with Vampire Diaries, that was it. It was like, it started off fire, then Originals came out. Originals was fire. Vampire Diaries started to dip off, I feel like. And then
Do you think the attention kind of went away towards... because they got beat with something better?
No, I wouldn't even say that. Okay. I would just say, like, the writers from the Vampire Diaries, the main writers went to the Originals. And then they had new writers come in for Vampire Diaries. And that is why the Originals was so good.
I know Julia Peck was, like, the executive producer who pretty much, like, made the Vampire Diaries what it was in the Originals. And Legacies, for that being said.
That's a whole nother one, too.
Yeah. So, basically, I know she was still around. And, with that being said, to actually answer your question about when did it go away, I really do believe that it went a different way, not for the worse, but just a different way in general, is when she got with Damon. And then when she broke up with Damon. And then, because then you got to remember.
That's the point, yeah.
When she broke up with Damon and went off on this whole rampage, especially after turning one for humanity, she started dating that one guy in the college for like a few episodes. And that was nothing. And then technically, they still had their thing, but not to get off topic.
No, I think you hit the. I'm gonna follow up on your point. Continue.
Because basically, like, series and TV shows change when things within the show change. Why do people stop watching shows? It's because things happen in the show where it's just like, all right, whatever, it's the same shit, or it's different shit, but I don't really like how it turns out. Like, there's a show I'm watching now that I won't get into detail about it, but basically there was like one season where I was just like, yo, it's not how it used to be. It just changes. It makes you not want to watch it. But I kept on watching it, and it kind of got back to where it was before. So I'm like, all right, cool. But, basically with the Vampire Diaries, it's like, well, she dated Stefan. Then she broke up with him. Then she got with Damon. And then they dated. And then they broke up. And then now it's like, well, now she's with neither of them. But yet they're still defending her. Yeah. And then fast forward to she dates a guy here, a guy there. Yeah. And then she leaves.
Yeah, see, following up on that point, right? Like, I heard somebody say this before where they were like, they based this show, like, overall, even though, like, people like us, we enjoyed it more so for the interaction of the characters and the story. Yeah. But for the demographic, it really is like a will they, won't they type of deal. So when we look at her with Stefan, and that's the build up for the series, and then you throw Damon in there as the counter to throw it off, what's gonna happen, and then even as far as like Stefan leaving, going evil, and then will they, won't they, and then they don't, and then Stefan and her happen, and then they, like, once her and Damon like got together, for a lot of people it was kind of like, okay, like, all right, I done seen it now, like, it finally happened. So, like, to break them up, put them back together is kind of...
And then to go back to when she left, it goes back to, well, now they have to maintain this show as a hit. Because obviously the CW is financing this show to make it worthy. Yeah. They're not just like... So, obviously, they want the show to be more interesting, which is why they came out with the Sirens. Yeah. And they added Sid to be, I guess, the new Elena, even though she wasn't, but... the whole character perspective of having a male-female character. Yeah. Because we already lost Matt's sister the first season. Vicky. And then you have all these girls coming in, especially in and out of Stefan's life. Yeah. When we eventually met Rebecca, we find out that Stefan and Rebecca had a thing. And then when the Heretics came, we found out that was that one first love that Stefan had.
I forget her name.
Yeah, I forget her name too.
Well, I feel like it's Elizabeth also, but I don't think it is.
Somebody in the comments will probably, somebody put something.
Remind us.
But, basically with that, it's like, that's what happened. And, season 8 came through. Nina Dobrev came through for the last episode, made that shit popping.
She needed
basically, fast forward to watching the whole series, it was cool. I rewatched it again because I stopped watching after this, like midway through the 6th season. Yeah. So I never really understood what happened afterwards.
Yeah, like the whole finish.
Exactly. And then plus I think once I kind of caught up, I kind of fell off because the recent episodes weren't on Netflix. But basically, long story short, I caught up on the originals, catching up on the legacies. I'm still to this day interested in it. Yeah. I find it as to a cool show. I mean, it's worth watching. I mean, it's interesting. It ain't just about the lovey-dovey scenes. It's literally about the cool action, the storyline, like the murders, the people, like all that.
Like the lore, the magical history.
The magical history, the fact that,
it's interesting.
The whole universe is dope. Yeah. Regardless of what anybody says, it's cool.
I'm with you. Yeah. We're going to have to do another video on the originals and legacies too, because it took me a minute to like finally say, I'm going to watch it, Because when they like premiered the trailer for it, I was like, man, back to high school. I'm good. I'm aged out of this demographic.
Yeah, because you gotta understand. Like, I saw something on Instagram where it was literally like the types of people who would watch the show if it all came out at the same time.
Yeah.
And pretty much like high schoolers would. No, I'm sorry. Like back then we were kind of like in high school, so you would watch the Vampire Diaries. But now, as they got to college and as they got to their more grown lives. We would see it now. The originals, it was more professional.
Oh yeah,
complex.
Originals was adult. That wasn't a.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you could argue.
The only thing that made it childish was when what's her name? Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. When Hope was born.
Yeah.
And then, but pretty much that was all adult. And then once Hope became a grown woman in season 5 or a teenager.
Yeah.
That's what turned into Legacies, and then that right there is really high school. Like that's more high school than Vampire Diaries was.
Yeah, for real.
Because these are younger actors.
They're like probably fresh. They're like freshmen, where Elena and them started off as juniors.
And as actors themselves, these people were in their 20s, acting as high schoolers.
Yeah.
These are high schoolers actually acting like high schoolers in Legacies. So, because in today's world, they be hiring 20, almost 30-year-olds to play college kids.
They're trying to reverse that now more so nowadays, like get younger actors and whatever. But then I didn't realize this until later. Like Nina Dobrev, I first saw her in Vampire Diaries, but then I found out she used to be in Degrassi.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And then if you watch Degrassi, and by the time I started watching Degrassi, I had probably seen the first 2 seasons of Vampire Diaries. So at this point, I'm looking at Degrassi. I'm like, yo, Nina look young as shit. This is how she should look playing a high school student.
If you look at her now, she's gotten older too.
Oh yeah, but she still look good though. She still like has a youthful look. Yeah. Like even Shanae Grimes. She was in 90210. She played Annie in the remake of 90210 back in the day, and she was in Degrassi. And you could see like, damn, like yo, y'all was younger here. Less so for Shanae Grimes because I don't remember how many seasons she was in Degrassi. Yeah. But it's way more noticeable when you see Nina Dobrev. She got the baby face. But yeah,
there's so much to talk about the Vampire Diaries and what it led on after that. But most importantly, it was a great show. I mean, there's a lot of action. I mean, a lot of sad moments. I mean, if we want to talk about the finale, I'm sure anybody can tell you that they fucking cried their eyes out.
Like, yo.
Or, this shit was
like,
real.
Stefan, no.
Like, to think that Stefan ended up with Caroline.
Yeah.
To think that, Damon ended up becoming, like, not a civil human being, because even though he did end up becoming human, but he definitely changed in the 8 years that went around. And mind you, as a vampire, 8 years ain't shit.
Ain't shit, yeah.
But what happened in those 8 years really changed him. It speaks a lot. And Alaric, I mean, that's a character we didn't even talk about. But that man right there.
Shouts out to Alaric, man.
That man has been through a lot as well. And listen, he became a vampire, an original vampire of his own at that, to then be revamped back to human because he ended up crossing the border. There's so much we didn't talk about, but if you want to talk about
if you want to hear us discuss any like particular scenes, episodes, break down anything, just let us know in the comments because there's so much we could talk about.
I mean, that's 8 years of stuff. I mean, like
real shit.
There's a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments that you can have about it. But I mean, all in time, good people. Shit, that's all about.
No shit.
Yeah, man.
But all right, man. This was a good talk, though, man. We gonna be back at it again with another one. One more time. You wanna say anything, drop anything, promo anything?
Nah, if everything's pretty much doing good right now in life, so might as well end it there. It's your boy Bash. Thank you guys for listening and watching.
Where once again, it's your boy Gravity the Beast. Instagram Gravity the Beast MC. YouTube The Big Cap. Come back again, like and subscribe.
Thank you guys.